Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's story. And if you do, please subscribe. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. It is episode 533. I was just telling my husband,
Wow.
JF, who now likes to be called John. He's changing his name at the ripe old age of 63. Isn't that funny?
Depends on who you are.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Whoever it is who you're going to decide what your name's going to be?
No, my good old close friends still call me JF.
Okay, so what's that all about?
John's just, I use that as a professional persona. It's more professional sounding.
It is?
Yes. Then it's much easier when people say, they say KF, RF, DF.
Yeah, no, well, I told you when I met you, I was like, what is his name? JF? It doesn't go with like JR. It's like, not like JR Ewing and stuff.
Right.
So I'm just going to say one thing, you guys, because I am his wife and we are doing this podcast. I'm going to make sure he looks at the camera too, and not just at me. So you guys can have a whole array of things. Okay, so now you're John instead of JF.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
How'd you do that?
Just like this.
You did?
Hi, my name's John. Was that hard?
It seems like it was hard. Not really.
It wasn't. No.
Mm-mm. So it's been funny. So I have a dear friend. I don't know if she's going to listen, but I was talking to her about the podcast today, and we decided to talk about things that are about sobriety and how we found 12-step.
You and your friend?
No, you and me.
Oh, okay.
So they had that question. So they wanted to, will you share a little bit about your journey to sobriety and what led you to AA?
Well, I feel like I've shared about that 1,000 times, especially on this podcast, but sure.
You can do a brief thing.
Okay. Well, I I drank alcoholically. There's no question about that. I was involved in a car accident, which resulted in a DUI, and I had no choice but to go to AA.
Okay.
That was it.
That was it.
That's very short.
And that's very short and very concise. And the same thing for me. I did not get in a car accident, and I did not that time. But if you guys listen to my pod, I was just interviewed on Rise Above with Kevin Lansing, and he asked me
Well, actually, if I can interrupt for a second, she told her story. So if you're interested in listening to her story, it's excellent. I highly recommend it. Rise Above by
Kevin. It's on, I'm going to have it on my website because I don't have it on there, but I have to get too busy with that too, because we all know that I'm a one-man dog and pony show. But anyway, so I was on his podcast, and so what led me to AA is I didn't know what I was going to do because I wanted to quit drinking. And I'm like, I need to quit drinking. Everybody I hang out with is a drinker. So what am I going to do now that I don't have all my drinking buddies? Who am I going to hang out with now that I've decided to quit drinking? And I really did it mostly for social reasons, to be completely honest. I was like, how am I going to make friends? And who am I going to be hanging out with now that I'm sober and I've quit drinking? Because the people I like to hang out with like to drink, and I can't drink. So I need to find some friends that don't drink but like to have fun. And guess what? I found them in 12-step rooms. And mission, as they say, mission accomplished. I went and I actually found people, like-minded people that are like me. And it's been awesome. So
that makes sense because there's lots of fun people in the rooms of recovery, lots of fun people.
Okay. How has being in the program shaped our marriage and the way we communicate?
Well, let's see. For me personally, it gives us, I find that I enjoy it a lot because we have so much common ground. We have a really good base that we share in common, that we can always relate to and always come back to. So I think I'm looking at it. Anyway, I'm not looking at the camera. So, it's really nice to have that common base. And, the thing about 12-step recovery, it's not just, like we don't drink anymore. It's a spiritual thing. And, it's gotten me much closer to God for sure.
Our marriage or the 12-step program?
The 12-step program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's a very important part of our marriage too, is God, and we have that in common. So, there's a lot of commonality there, and it brings in similar morality that we have, and, similar goals, and, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I think it's great.
But I think that I'm going to beg to differ.
Mhm.
That I do not believe that when we came into this program, I would say, do you believe in God? And you would say yes. And I love that he would say, I'm spiritual. And I'm doing air quotes because you guys love that I do air quotes.
Mhm.
So when we met, you said, I'm spiritual. You definitely did not have. So how we communicate about this has evolved definitely from when we first met and where
Sure.
we are today and where you are today, because you aren't as much spiritual as we say in quotes. Would you say?
No, and I don't know what the point is that you're trying to make, but I believe that, from what I hear and the way I feel about it is that, it's all part of it's a journey that we're on. It's all part of our growth. So, uh, I think you're taking credit for getting me into church. So, good for you.
So how we
Meeting,
communicate is
meeting,
just like every married couple. Can you guys tell already?
meeting you, got me into church, and so that's great. I love church, and in fact, I was just there as recently as today and had an excellent time. So thank you for that, Bizzy. I appreciate it.
Well, you don't have to give me credit because I just
Mhm.
think that it's like, how is it the way we communicate? And I think that as you guys can tell by listening to us, that God was a big part. I was never quote unquote spiritual very much ever. I was always God fearing. Because I still remember that story. I think I told you of when I was going through that really hard day, and I was upstairs in my bed on the third floor of my house in Wayne, and I felt like God coming down and just hugging me. And I feel
Yes.
like, so how we communicate, I think that it's important that we do. We both have a program. I don't think it's our own. I think we have our own programs. I don't think it's our we program. I think you have your program that you do, and I have my program that I do.
Yes. Which is the same program, the 12-step program.
Right. But you do yours with your people, and I do mine with my people.
That is correct.
Right.
Hmm.
So we don't go to the same place.
No.
Not very often.
No.
No. And I think we do that on purpose.
Well, we do. I mean, I have my group of friends, and I prefer guys, and I prefer guys that are manly guys. So, I found that group of guys, and that's who I hang out with.
So you go to a men's meeting.
Mostly, yes. Mostly, I do go to men's meetings.
But that's evolved too.
Well, it has. I've never had the opportunity to mostly go to men's meetings before because I've never really been someplace where they're, more than, I don't know, once a week or twice a week close by. And, for me, I'm very grateful and thankful that I can go 5 times a week if I want to. I don't go that often. I go 3 times a week, and it's 5 minutes from where I live. So it's nice.
You've actually helped evolve that meeting, wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't really take credit for that, but I've been there since the beginning of a lot of it, and I've given my input, most of which they've disregarded, and that's fine. But I, I'm a I'm definitely a part of the community. There's no question about it.
And I have my own community. And I
Right.
actually just started a meeting because at my house. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not really AA because it's like,
And it's nice. I enjoy meeting your friends in AA, and for the most part, you enjoyed meeting my friends in AA. So it's nice.
yeah. But
It's
I
good.
think it's nice because you get to do you and I get to do me, and it doesn't have to be so codependent, which I think is a huge thing. So that's how we communicate, is that because you can go to your thing and see your people, I can go to do my thing, and then we can come together and we can say, how was yours? And what'd you talk about? And so,
Right.
and I think it gives us actually more and more to talk about. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, for sure. And I think the whole program itself does that. It just, like I said, it gives us a base where we come from. It doesn't outline the details of our relationship at all because it really doesn't have much to do with our relationship. But our relationship has a lot to do with recovery. So there you go. I mean, that's kind of
Wait, that
cool.
was kind of confusing what you just said.
Well, what I'm saying is that we don't go to AA to improve our relationship, right?
No.
No, we go to AA to improve ourselves.
Which then
which
in
therefore
tandem,
just improves our relationship. There's no question about it. It
yeah,
just happens.
it does. And
Yeah,
I
makes
think
us better people.
I agree. I think that it's kind of interesting. I have a dear friend that just started dating, and she's like it's like she likes that because when you work on yourselves, especially at our age, like
Hmm.
as I just mentioned, he's 63, I'm 56. So having like a place to go and work on yourselves and get deeper than just what kind of jeans you're wearing or what was your golf score, it's kind of fun.
It is, and then to get back to kind of where we started from, for me personally, a lot of the spiritual thing, I got as
That was air quotes because he didn't tell you air quotes.
air quotes is I got as deep as I was ever going to get in AA, and it wasn't enough for me. I learned that I needed more, and so that's why I'm very grateful that we did find a church that's a really good church full of really good people with a great message that's well pastored, and and I thank God for that. I really do, because speaking for myself, that's what I need. It's the next level of getting closer to God. What I learned for myself, and I really wasn't aware of it until I was working with a guy who was claimed to be very spiritual, um, but he kept relapsing like every 2 weeks for the last 23 years. And I'm like, well, something's not right. And when he talked more about it, I'm like, the problem with being spiritual is that you get to sort of pick and choose what rules apply to you and what morality applies to you and what is good to you and what is not good to you. When I thought about that, I'm like, wow, for somebody like me, that means I can just justify any behavior that I want to justify because, oh, I'm spiritual and my morality says that this is okay or that's okay. And I really, I feel it's hard to describe or explain. I guess it's hard to explain that, by being a part of, you know, the Episcopal Church, and reading the Bible and trying to study and understand it and listening to, the message that God and Jesus put forth in that, and the rules, if you want to call it, the morality that's in there, has really made me feel so much more free than I did before. And it's a hard thing to explain. And I guess the way I can explain it best is that, people come into 12-step recovery and they say, you want to take my freedom away. My, that I, and, and it's so untrue because what we realize is that when we are able to step away from the thing that is taking our freedom away, which is our addiction, we're so much freer. And so I guess I would equate that to being part of the church has enabled me to even further step away from myself. And I realize that, the further I can get from myself, the more freedom that I have. And that's the truth.
I love that. I love that. The further, because I like that there's parameters. I talk about this sometimes on the podcast. When you're bowling, you have parameters, right? Like they have these, when you're little, they bring out these special guards that are like on the side. And so if you have like a parameter of where you're going and like what right from wrong, it gives you a so much more freedom when you know right from wrong and having the 12 steps for us and together as a couple, we know that we're always working on something about who we are and how we want to evolve to something else. So, with that was my next question that we received. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What were some of the biggest challenges of blending our families while maintaining our sobriety?
Well, that's still a big challenge. There's not even enough time to get into it. So it's not a great question. Sorry.
No, come on.
What? Okay. Read the question again.
Okay. What were some of the biggest challenges of blending your family while maintaining our sobriety? We never
Well,
really could
wait.
blend our
Here's
families.
the thing. The families never blended. My sobriety never wavered. So, like I say, it's just not a great question for me.
Okay, but
I couldn't make them blend, And I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna drink if they don't blend. I'm just. How
They
about
didn't
you?
blend. Well, I think I want to give this a little more, a little
Why
more.
don't you take it then?
Okay, I'll take this one.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So our families never blended. Our kids never blended, really. That was no. It was definitely forced. It was, and I think that even if you don't have a drinking problem, I think that your kids having blended families for one is really difficult. And with these five human beings, three of which I gave birth to, two of which are he fathered, the five of them never were going to blend. It was just, they were at that point, they were older. They were not, your son was already like, had already like kind of already had like met his wife and was like already like a few months, not long after they met, he was already becoming a dad. So he was totally different than the my three kids who weren't even anywhere near that. And then I mean it made I don't it was hard for us personally because of course everybody wants their kids to blend and we wanted to have quote unquote the Brady bunch, but I mean, I wanted that probably more than you did. Because you had, but you had already done this before. This is the first time I had ever been in a relationship with somebody where I was trying to get that I got married to because it's only my second marriage, where I wanted everybody to blend.
Hmm.
So I think for you, this is your second time doing this, and you already tried to do it
Right.
before. Would you agree with that? I mean,
Yes.
you were with that other woman for 10 years, even though you were only married for one, right?
Right. And I don't think that like for me, it just uh, sobriety had nothing to do with it. I know if I had to been sober, it wouldn't have mattered because I would have never met you or the other woman or anybody else anyway. So it had no impact. I don't think it had any impact one way or the other. I mean, I've been sober since my kids were 1 years old and 5 years old. So that's what they're used to. So it wasn't like, oh geez, and you've been sober since your kids were like what, 10, 9, and 6 or something
10,
like that.
8, and 6, yeah.
10, 8, and 6. So when I showed up to have a sober guy around, it was like no big.
But I think one thing that maybe we could also point out here is that sobriety has always been, again, something that we do individually. I think when we were first married and we were living in Philadelphia, I'd started a meeting. So you went to that.
Hmm. Yeah, we've been to a lot of meetings together.
We went in Philadelphia a lot more than we have in Florida.
Yeah, we did when we were first in Florida. We went to pretty much the same meeting together 4 or 5 times a week. You know, but
Amelia Island, we really didn't.
there wasn't really no meetings to go to.
The
I mean,
meetings we did go together.
It wasn't great.
And then we move here and there's so many meetings and there's no more COVID. So there's so many opportunities. And you like to go early and you again like to go with the men, which I think is amazing. I love that you go with men. I think it's really great. But as to because it was so important to us individually to have a program that I think that the kid part of it was something that was totally what the kids where our kids and what our kids did was not really we were both in long at that point pretty much long-term sobriety, so the actual way it affected if our kids stopped talking to us, which they have, um you know it's been difficult. I mean, that part's been difficult, but we've been supportive of each other because
Sure,
we've never
absolutely.
had
Yeah.
we have supported each other with our kids and loving each other unconditionally, even though the kids want nothing. Some of us some of them don't want anything to do with us, which is fine. And but I encourage him to have a relationship with his children, and I think he encourages me to have a relationship with my kids.
Hmm.
But to think that we're gonna have this again, kumbaya, my love, and this like amazing family,
No, we're not blending a 32-year-old, two 28-year-olds, a 27-year-old, 25-year-old. They're like they're already out of the blender.
yeah, they're out of the blender. They're not part of it. I mean, it makes me sad because I do sometimes think it would be fun to be like Carol and Greg Brady, who had that fun. They blended the whole six of them.
I know, but then you realize, that's right, they were a TV show. They weren't
Yeah, that's true.
even real.
Okay. So, here's another question. How do we support each other in individual recoveries while also maintaining a strong relationship?
Well, I think that goes without saying. You are all about me doing my thing, and I'm all about you doing your thing. And my thing is I like to hit the meeting at 7 a.m., and your thing is you don't like to get out of bed at 7 a.m. It's fine. It's great. And I'm happy that you found a good crew, and I know you're happy that I found a good crew. And it's like it has no. I've never once in my life thought, "Geez, I wish she was going with me instead of up to where she goes." I just you know I support you.
And I support you.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I think that our individual like we have a very strong relationship and we talk about a lot of things, and it's very nice to have a relationship where you can totally be honest about everything. Like there's no hiding, there's no sneaking. I mean, we both um, you know, sobriety is at the first part of our lives. That's like number one. God and sobriety is like number one in our
Hmm.
lives. And we have each other and we have our families. But now that we're both, now I'm just going to speak for me. Now that I'm an empty nester, our relationship has become so much stronger because I don't feel like I'm pulled by my, like, I have to go drop something off for the kids or the right to, like, we don't have that. I mean, and when we go to visit my kids, like, I was going to go next week to see one of my kids, and I was just going to go by myself and he wasn't going to come. And that's fine. And it's probably going to happen in the near future that I'll go visit that one child because we've got to plan a wedding. And so I
Hmm.
got to go do that. But beyond that, like we are totally on our individual paths, but we are together 100%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not joined at the hip.
No,
That's for sure. And I support you in your endeavors, and I know you support me in mine. And it's just all part of life, right?
it is. It's so nice to be able to have your own journey and
Hmm.
not be codependent so much.
And I'm lucky because I'm a man, so like we appreciate the empty nest. It's less messy and less cluttered and quieter. We like
well,
the empty nest.
well, at least this man likes the empty nest. Okay, so one more question. What advice would you give to couples where one person is sober and the other is not? Now, I have not had this in my life,
Well, that's not true, right? I mean, you had a relationship with your ex-husband.
but I wasn't sober and he was. I wasn't married to him.
That's true.
I was not married to him.
Hmm. Well,
You
and
have
so
been.
are they? It's a kind
So
of a
that's
broad-based
so.
question. So
This
I've
is
been married 3 times, and the first time I was definitely not sober, and at the time she was. So it's kind of the shoe was on the other foot. Then the second time, um, I was sober and she wasn't, but it wasn't that just that she wasn't sober, but she was an active addict. So it's not like I was never married really to being sober and being married to like a normal person that just drinks on occasion. It was bad. It was really bad. So my advice, if you married somebody like that, is get out as soon as you can before they take everything that you have. I'm serious. I don't have good advice. I'm sorry.
you don't.
I don't. I don't. I was like,
How'd you manage through that?
uh, it was completely on me that I even got into the relationship, you know, and um, and we're gonna be talking for a long time now, so just sit back and relax. Um, I was spiritually, spiritually air quotes, in a place where I still, and I believe this is a really strong inclination for a lot of people. I really, on some level, and I don't know if it was conscious or unconscious or subconscious or all three, really thoroughly lived my life and believed that something outside of myself was going to make me happy, you know, and I pursued it. So I found this person, and I just decided that if I can get this person straightened out to where they're supposed to be. Now, if any of you guys are in recovery, you're like, oh my God, he needed to read like the big book of the actor on the stage. No kidding, people. He did need to read that, you know. Um, and
I love it when you talk about yourself in third person.
I just really it was, it was terrible, but I had this. So I believe that the hardest thing for any human being to let go of is the outcome. And I had this outcome for myself in mind, and that meant I had an outcome for everybody else around me in mind. And in order for this outcome to happen, I needed to have certain certain people, but they weren't people, they were just parts, right? Because that's really how I treated everything. I had certain parts that I needed to fill, and I found this person, and I was like, this is the perfect part. This is the one that's going to let me get to my outcome. And so
Because she looked a certain way
no,
and she dressed a certain way, or why? How?
She looked a certain way, and she was theoretically sober, and I knew on one level that like she had some problems. There's more air quotes, and if I could just get those problems straightened out and get her to see what she could really be, she could be something really wonderful. And I would never do that again. I would never do that again. So I created this whole mess, and of course she relapsed, and and once that happened, it just completely fell apart. Everything fell apart really fast, and so I don't have, my point is I don't have a good answer to the question, because yes, I was in that relationship, but yes, I was just as sick as the other person that was in the relationship, just in an entirely different way. And and I really I really needed to get straightened out, and so I've learned that it is possible to let go of the outcome. It is possible to, for me anyway, it's very possible to live a life with, some broad-based kind of like goals and lots of dreams in mind, but not any outcomes in mind, because that's just crazy. As soon as I have an outcome, it's insane. As soon as I have an outcome, I talked about the freedom I get from, being part of a church and an organized religion. It's all gone. The freedom's all gone. You know, there's nothing in that except for me. And that's why I say that, that whatever I can do to get me out of the way is the thing that gives me the most possible freedom. And, and hanging on to that outcome is the complete opposite of freedom for me. And unfortunately for everybody else around me too. It's all gone for everyone.
So I'm just going to give a little bit from me just so I can fill you guys in. So what advice would I give a couple where one person is sober and the other's not? Well, I will tell you this. I did date somebody when I had a year of sobriety, and he was a drinker and I was not. And because, again, I was like 38, 39 years old when this happened. And I was, I liked a part of it, but I felt like because of for one, I only had a year of sobriety, so I wasn't that strong. So I was definitely like hanging out with the person way more, and the person didn't go to 12-step meetings. So that was hard because I was like, we were going, I'd go to sit at bars and I'd do these things, then in turn brought me closer to a drink than further from a drink. And that relationship didn't last. And then I dated somebody else in the program. Then I've dated mostly people that were in the program after that. Because for me, it is such a big part of my life that I think that it's easier to be with somebody that also doesn't drink. And now I'm married, so I don't date anymore. So I have no idea what that would be like. But I know that I have friends that do date people that are sober. And I think that if you're an evolved person and you don't care and you don't have a drinking problem, it's no issue. I think that if you have no issue with alcohol or drugs, then I think dating a sober person would be totally amazing and great. But if you have a drinking problem and your person that you're with is sober, I think that becomes hard. And I think marriages that start off where you're drinking and then one person gets sober and the other person doesn't, and they're still continuing to drink the certain way, it's really difficult. I think it's really, really difficult. And I've watched a lot of people where their loved one has gone into treatment and then they get out of treatment. And the suggestion a lot of times when somebody leaves treatment is to attend 12-step meetings, which is another time sucker. So not only is their person come back out of treatment and they're not doing the thing that they did together, which is air quotes, drinking and partying together. And then now they come out of treatment and not only are they going back to their job, which probably takes at least 8 hours of their day, and then they have to spend another, let's just say 2 hours round numbers, because it takes time to get to a meeting. Then you talk before the meeting and then the meeting lasts an hour. And then afterwards you talk some more. So that's 2 hours. So 10 hours of your loved one's time that you used to have that time together is now with them out of the house and doing other things which you aren't included in. It feels really hard. And it's like, again, a different language. And I don't think it's that foreign of a language that you couldn't understand it if you wanted to. I think a lot of rehab facilities out there have wonderful family programs. And I think if you embrace that family program and you get to understand it and understand that it's not the drink, it's not about the drink at all when we talk about sobriety, in my opinion. And it's about the thinking, and it's the thinking that you don't feel comfortable in a situation, whatever it is. I'm not going to go into it because we'll be doing this podcast will last too long, and I want to kind of sum it up right now. But I feel like if you are aware, it's the biggest thing is being aware at what you're looking at and what the situation really is. And take things, as my husband just said, for face value, not wishing that something were different than it is. You really need to consider what is going on. And if you like to drink a lot and you're dating somebody that doesn't drink, just be wary of that. I mean, it's really important. And if you want to be with somebody that is a non-drinker, figure out what it is. Go buy the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Read the book, understand, so at least you can communicate about it. And I think for us, again, bringing the Episcopal Church into our marriage, I'd already been an Episcopalian. I was raised Catholic, as a lot of you know. My dad's Jewish. And when my kids were little, I started going to the Episcopal Church. So I've been doing that for 20 plus years, probably at this point. Over 20 years. That's too scary. Oh my God, I'm so old. But anyway, over 20 years, I've been going to the Episcopal Church, I guess like 30 years now. And not 30, but like 28 years, maybe 25 years. We'll say 25 years I've been going to the Catholic Episcopal Church. And I go to the Catholic Church. And you go to the Catholic Church too at times. I mean, we do both. We go to Catholic and we go to Episcopal. God is just at the center of everything for me and for John now at JF. And so for us, you have to have some common ground, and communication is key. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree 100%.
Communication is key.
Way to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Sure.
We are going to do it again.
Okay.
We're going to do it in April, May. Once a month, I like to have you on.
Okay. Well, it's March right now.
Yeah.
So sounds like April.
Sounds like April.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you do, please subscribe. You're like, how do I subscribe? On Apple iTunes, you do follow. On Spotify, you do follow. On YouTube, you can subscribe. You don't have to pay any money. That means you're a follower. And you can follow me on all Instagram. I'm doing a lot more Instagram and TikTok than I've ever done before. So go check it out. And I hope you again enjoyed today's show. And if you would love to hear more from us or have any questions for us individually or one-on-one, you can reach out to us at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. So that's enough from us today on Monday. This is May 24th.
It's actually
March 24th, 2025. See, I don't even know what day it is, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's show again, and take care. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. And follow me on all social media. And you can also get my newsletter every Friday morning into your inbox. Just go to elizabethchance.com and subscribe. Take care.